Hey guys, I'm Justin Davis from Drone Camps RC. Welcome to our top 5 video, and this is my top 5. Maybe you have a particular top 5 that you like, and you can list it down in the comments below. Feel free to share your own opinions on what you feel like is your favorite brushless micro out there. Everybody has their favorites, so I'm going to tell you my favorites today, and we're going to start with number 1, which is the Emax Babyhawk. Number 2, which is going to be the Flex RC. This is the Pico X. There's a ton of different options with both of these first two, and we have our friends over at Air Arsenal. This is the Kinney 97mm, very awesome flying quad. You guys have probably seen some action video of this on the channel previously. And we have the AR Fun 90, and we also have the Mosquito 70. So there's a lot on the table right here. And let's go ahead and start talking about number 5 in this countdown, the Mosquito 70. Okay, so let's hop right into this, and this is number 5 in my countdown, and this is the Furious FPV Mosquito 70. You can check them out on furiousfpv.com. I do like Furious stuff a lot. I think it's really nice stuff, but this one's more the more expensive one out of the bunch, and that's probably why it's number 5. It's a little smaller than some of the other quads in this lineup, the other quads being at 90mm, but this one's 70mm. It's the smallest of the bunch, so we have to really give this some serious accolades here for all the stuff that they packed in here. They have actually the world's smallest flight controller on here, and it's running something called Race Whoop in beta flight, and that's pretty cool. Now, 2 other big bonuses on this one is its small size, and the fact that this one also does have a beeper on board. Now, I got probably one of the original versions of the Mosquito 70 that first came out, so mine actually has a clover leaf on top of it. The newer ones have a little dipole, so that might be a little more durable, but the clover leaf that Furious FPV is probably that they make is going to give you a little better reception. So also running 5.8 gigahertz video on here and a 2.4 receiver on here. Now, these motors are 1102 10,000 kV, so they're actually, you know, they're pretty spicy for what we have here for this frame. And it is a carbon frame. It looks like 3 mil on here, maybe 2 mil, but it does look like 3. And they have the ESCs tucked underneath here, and they are separate ESCs, so that's also a benefit of this little Mosquito 70 is the fact that if you burn one of these out, you don't have an all-in-one ESC inside the stack, and it also gives a little more room in here for you to get in here and work on things, or add a different receiver if you want to. Speaking of receivers, it does come with your choice of 4 different receivers on here, FR Sky, Futaba, Spectrum, or for you Fly Sky guys. So no one's really left out in the cold as far as receivers go on the Mosquito 70. Now, this one particularly, it flies okay. I would like more power out of it, obviously, but you know, this is called the perfect Whoop over here, and it flies a little bit like a Whoop with just a little more power because you have brushless motors. Now, outside, the wind did affect it a little bit. If you have a more of a calm day, this one's probably going to be a little better for calm days, but you can fly this one indoors as well. A little better than you can some of the other brushless micros sitting over here to my right. So indoor, outdoor, definitely you can do just about anything with this quad. You can also do some freestyle and some mild racing with this one. Now, it does come with this extra little prop guard mount that I have over here, and you don't have to use these posts because this one already has posts on the bottom. This one just mounts right on here, and it came set up with this one, but in my flight test, my original flight test, I had issues with this. It was causing the quad to violently tilt to the right or left, so it needs to be PID tuned directly to this one. Now, maybe they've worked that out since they released this quad, but again, like I said, mine was an early version of this one, so I ended up taking this off, and it flies way better without the prop guards on. Also, on the back here, guys, it does sport a little JST connector, and I probably wouldn't switch that out to an XT30 if I was you. I would just stick to that little JST. That'll be plenty of power for it. Now, one drawback of this frame design is the fact that these little ESC mounts right here, they only allow you to use a narrow battery, something about as wide as my middle finger can fit through here. So you can't fly the wide flat batteries, 2S batteries, but you can definitely get the narrow batteries in here. And these little rubber bands that they have, they actually hold the battery down quite well. you don't really need any Velcro underneath the frame to hold it tight. But the average battery that you're going to fly on this one is going to be a 2S 300 milliamp on here, and if you go larger than 300 milliamp, you're probably going to start getting a little bit heavy for this quad. So if you're looking for batteries for this one, stick to the 2S 300s. Those are going to be the best ones. Now one drawback I feel like this VTX that's on here, it's 25 milliwatt. It doesn't allow me to switch it to 200, so I would have liked to seen that this one was a 200 milliwatt. So that might be one drawback. Also, there's no OSD on this quad. I would like to see maybe the next version, maybe the Pro version of the Mosquito 70 would have OSD on here, and that would pretty much complete this one. Maybe some little larger ESCs to let us eventually get to 3S on this would be pretty crazy. Maybe also some different props on here. I'm not a huge fan of these props, but they do work. Now what I did was I took a little tiny dab of hot glue and put on the very top of these, each one of them, so that I didn't have any props flying off when I flew my Mosquito 70. Now the ESCs inside this one are also a big win to me because they are 7 amp and they can handle 2S quite easily, but they're also D-Shot, and they're D-Shot 300 ESCs in here, compatible with BL Heli Suite, so that's actually pretty cool. So there's a lot of good things about this one. For the size, it's really innovative. It's one of the smallest flight controllers that I have seen so far this year. It is super, super small. So at the end of this video, after the talk on each quad, we're going to show you some flight footage of this one and the rest of them in the lineup. But let's go ahead and move to number 4 now, and that's going to be the AR Fun 90. And number 4 in our lineup is the AR Fun 90, and this one is interesting for a lot of reasons. This one also has, what I find most interesting is this lowrider style camera mount. It's underneath instead of being up top, so I feel like that's better for crashes. But this one has a really aggressive technical spec on this one. We're looking at 1104 7500 kV motors, and these are really, really punky. They say DYS on them, and they do say Aurora RC on the side, so this is probably Aurora parts on this one. And it also has a 4-in-1 BL Heli 20 amp ESC stack in here. This is a 4-in-1, so you don't have ESCs out on the arms on this one. And one of the drawbacks, I guess, is if you blow one of these ESCs out, you're going to have to pull this off and put a new ESC, 4-in-1 ESC on there. And in my experience, in the last 6 months of flying Brushless Micros, I've had quite a few of these 4-in-1 ESCs to go out on me, and I've had to replace them. So keep that in mind when you go to buy one of these, that if you do lose one, you're going to have to buy a new one. So not the end of the world, but you're going to have to take everything apart and resolder everything up. So definitely something to think about for your purchase. Now, we also have 5.8 gigahertz on this one as well. We don't have a clover leaf on this one. You do have that sort of dipole antenna coming off the top, and I added a little bit of extra heat shrink on the top here to strengthen it up, and I added a little piece of hot glue right here to kind of give it some protection in some of the crashes. And we have the Fly Sky, well, actually this is an FR Sky receiver coming out the back here with a little antenna out the back, USB port on the side over here, and we're also running Betaflight on this one. It's an F3 with OSD, so one of my favorites in this bunch is this one because it has OSD. None of the other quads in this top 5 lineup have OSD except for this one. So if you're looking for OSD and you're looking for top spec stuff, something that you can fly 3S on, the AR Fun 90 is going to be something that you can do that. And it is a huge difference between 2S and 3S on these Brushless Micros. It really, really is. It's like night and day difference. Now the bottom of this frame, if you look at it from the very bottom, you can see it is technically it is a true X. It's pretty much X'd out on the bottom of this frame, and it's nice and flat. All the screws on the bottom of this are flush. They're not sticking out like some of the other designs, so it's really easy to get a piece of flat Velcro down here for my battery, and the battery hardly ever flies off of this one. So pretty nice build and very nice carbon fiber frame on this one. Now, I would like to say that I did break one of these and they sent me an extra frame, but not the end of the world. You can get a new frame for this one. This AR Fun frame is about, I believe, $6 to $10 for that bottom plate, so not super expensive. Also, you have 3mm carbon bottom plate on here, this very bottom part. And the top part right here is 1.5 millimeters. Now, not only do you have 20 amp ESCs, 1104 motors, you have OSD on here, you also have a beeper. So in the very back right here, I have my beeper tucked in there. There's a little bit of hot glue holding it in place, but super cool that this one comes with just about all the specs that I'm looking for, aside from having prop guards. So I just added my own prop guards, but this is one of the more aggressive flying ones in the bunch. So if you're looking for something with maximum punch out and maneuverability for freestyle flying, this is definitely one of my top picks, one of my top 5 this year so far. All right, moving right along, we're up to number 3 in my top 5, and number 3 is going to be the Kenny 97 by Air Arsenal. I also have the Flex RC Pico X sitting next to it, and really I have these two sitting here because I feel like they're close rivals. I felt like these two were very similar as far as flight characteristics. The Kenny 97 being a little more aggressive because obviously I do have larger motors on here. I have 1104s and I have 1103s on this one. But this one has a lot of different components, and Flex RC has a ton of stuff on their website, but we'll talk more about this one in just a minute. Let's go ahead and go over this Kenny 97. You know, this one has been absolutely one of my most maneuverable, top flying favorite ones to fly this year. I did a ton of videos out on the cliffs in Oregon and did some boulder flipping and racing around some of these really tall evergreen trees. Now, I had a ton of fun with this quad. So this one is very versatile, very versatile. It has this really durable sort of football helmet, 3D printed cover that you can get on Kenny's site. It's very nice because I was able to fit an FR Sky XSR up inside here. I just cut the side plates off, and I don't have OSD on this one, but I do have a beeper, and a beeper is pretty much a requirement for these tiny little brushless quads because you cannot find these guys. Once you crash and you didn't see where it went, you're likely never to find it again because they're just so small. Much easier to fly with 5-inch, but I've also lost 5 inches. Now, the bottom of this frame is also going to be, let's double check that. I believe it was 3 mil. It might be 2. Yeah, so we're looking at 2 mil bottom plate on this, but I haven't broke one of these so far yet this year, and I have really abused this frame. Actually, the power cable is hanging off because I have crashed this one so much that the last crash was pretty brutal into some trees. And he's using the JST on the back of this. You can do an XT30 on this, but in my experiences, I've had some cameras black out with the XT30 because it's getting direct voltage, and some of these all-in-one cameras can't handle that voltage going directly to it. So something to think about. Now, this frame was a little bit hard to build because of all the stuff I had to get stacked in here. I was able to squeeze a 4-in-1 ESC in here, but if you have standalone ESCs out on the arms, that might be a better setup for this particular frame. But at the time, I didn't have any of those, so I had to use what I had and kind of get everything crammed in here. But it all worked out. I was able to get my VTX in there as well, 5.8 with a little dipole coming out the back here. And it's probably going to be a setup that you're going to want to use a dipole on. Some people are coming out this hole right here. And I'm also using those gym fans on this quad. And gym fan in combination with the Eachine 1104 7500 kVs, it make this quad fly really well. And I have pretty much stock Betaflight PIDs on this one, so no special tuning on this one like I did with my Babyhawk. This one just kind of rocked once I got it built and out at the cliffs for the first time. So I'm pretty pleased with Air Arsenal. You guys should definitely check them out on their website. I'll try to put that down there in the link below because not only are these awesome quads, they do have a variety of different flavors for adding 3D printed parts, and you can add all kinds of different camera stacks, and he has a ton of cool stuff on his site. So go check out Air Arsenal. Let's go ahead and move now to number 2 in our lineup. And here it is, guys. Number 2 on our top 5 countdown, we have the Flex RC This is the Pico X DIY kit. You'll have to build this one yourself. It seems like all the best ones seem to be DIY. That's kind of the way it's always been. But we have a lot of cool stuff on here. I just upgraded this camera on here to that little Runcam Micro, and I added a really cool little separate VTX back here that kind of had to be wired up to it. I had to trim the wires off and put 3 wires onto this camera, video, 5 volt, and the ground. Not a big deal. It's pretty easy to do. And then I heat shrink the whole thing together so that they would not move around too much, and just seated it down there with a little bit of hot glue on both sides. Now this is a huge upgrade. This camera is way better than the little all-in-ones that you've seen previously on this channel. And I also have this set to 200 milliwatts. So on the very back here, you do have a little digital display, and if it shows 3 bars, it's running 200 milliwatt, but it'll also jump between the band, and it will go to the channel and then to the power output. This one also does a huge, I think like 72 different channels on here. So this one's probably not quite legal. You don't need all the bands that are on there. Way more bands than you need. So stick to the ones that are going to be in the legal range. Now I also have a beeper back here on that as well. You have to have a beeper on these micros. And I have the original prop guards on here. So I promised Dimitri that owns Flex RC that I would put them back, and here they are. Very, very nice. They're all carbon fiber with a little 3D printed bouncy kind of flexible plate down here, so it gives it a little bit of flex if you hit something, which is nice, because with prop guards, these things tend to bounce when they hit hard objects instead of breaking stuff. So that's also nice, and it's also perfectly mounted so that it protects my props, and I'm going to break way less props with this setup. Now I do have little Flex RC motors on here, and these are 1103, but they're also 8,000 kVs. So I'm running 2S on this one as well, 2S 300 milliamp battery. You can also fly it on 450s if you want. You get a little better flight time, and I have a ton of those 450s as well. So go either way with that if you want to. Now the DIY combo does come with an Omnibus F3 with OSD, so you can add OSD on this one, which would be awesome. You can also fly this one up to 3S on the 4-in-1 10 amp ESC that comes with this. So 2 to 3S options on the Flex Pico X is definitely going to be awesome out in the field. And he is also using the JST little tiny connector here. This is the male version on the end, and the female end will obviously be on the battery. But you can also add the X230 on this one if you want to, but be careful that it's not going to burn out your camera. So watch out for your cameras when you're running those XT30s or having no kind of step down regulator. If you have a Polo on here, that would definitely help you. And if you look on his website, there's a ton of different options for camera mounts on here. That's why I like Flex RC a lot, because they have tons and tons of varieties. I have a handful of different little sort of all-in-one camera mounts that can come along with this quad. And he has all of those on his website. But I like this one the best because it did protect that original cloverleaf antenna that I had up here. Just barely stuck out the top back here. But now that I have this dipole back here, it's just going to kind of get out of the way once I have a crash. So, but it will protect this nice new run cam that I put on here. So I feel like this Flex RC stuff is definitely going to be a win, especially for the DIY guys. If you're doing it yourself, definitely want to check out Flex RC. He has some super cool setups for this Pico X. You can also do a bottom mount, lowrider style camera mount, where you can have a carbon top plate on here. So you can put it up top like this design, or you can go lowrider with this little Pico X. So number 2 in my countdown is definitely the Pico X by Flex RC. Dum dum dum, here it is, number 1 on the countdown. This is the Emax Babyhawk, and you've seen a ton of videos on YouTube. Everyone's flying them, everyone has them, everyone loves the Babyhawk. If you are an FPV pilot and you don't love the Babyhawk, I'm not sure that I know who you are, because the Babyhawk is just everywhere right now. And the top reason that this one is number 1 on my countdown is mainly because it's probably the best all-around Brushless Micro. It has props on here that are proprietary, and I didn't like that at first, but they actually fly really well. I would like to see that they made some sort of adapter on this so that we could fly a variety of other props and try out some different thickness on some different props. Like maybe we could fly the Furious props, or maybe we could fly the AR Fun 90 style props, the King Kong props. I would like to be able to experiment more with this one, because this one has a lot of potential. You also have separate ESCs on here, which is super awesome. You've got 6S ESCs on there, BL Heli S. You also have 1104 motors on there, and plenty of power. So we have the right power system on this one, and we have a switchable VTX camera system, an all-in-one camera on here, up to 200 milliwatt and down to 25 milliwatt. So when you're flying these around trees and behind things, 200 milliwatt is really what you need to have a good time without losing total reception. In 200 milliwatt, I'm able to fly behind trees and not almost lose no video, using diversity goggles, of course. But you also have prop guards on this one. The prop guards work pretty well. I hit boulders and I flew around cliffs. I bounced off things. I did bend these back one time where the prop guards were actually hitting the prop. So they're not going to be totally perfect. A friend of mine also broke his right here on the first few flights, but you can also take them off and it flies way better without the prop guards on there. So take them off, experiment with the Babyhawk. And this was the first one that I got. It came with this cloverleaf style antenna, and you know, I get way out there with the cloverleaf, but run it on 200 and you're going to have a much better experience. Now let's talk about some drawbacks of the Emax Babyhawk. I would like to see maybe in the next version, the Babyhawk Pro, possibly, that they have props that we can switch out with other props, obviously. Also, I would like to have a beeper on here, because this one doesn't have a beeper. It doesn't come with a beeper. And I would also like to see that it has OSD on here. But we have a video that shows you how to add a beeper, and we show you how to take this one slam apart. It's pretty much like the Babyhawk Bible. You can check that out on our channel. And they do come with a variety of different receivers. You can get one for Spectrum, you can get one for FR Sky, and you can do Fly Sky on here as well. So you can do a variety of different protocols. You can do PPM and you can do S-Bus. So I wouldn't worry too much about not being able to fly this with your radio. You're definitely going to be able to do that. Now also inside here, you sort of have a floating mounted flight controller. It's just held down with a piece of sticky tape, and I actually had to take mine and put another piece of VHB underneath it to secure it a little bit better, so that it didn't move around in flight. But this is Emax's own flight controller, and it's super tiny. It's one of the smallest flight controllers out there. It's the Femto F3, so you're going to be able to run Betaflight on this one. And I had no problem with the original factory PIDs that came out of it, but I did tune it a little further, and I'll try to give you those PIDs down below. So I have some custom PIDs that actually work quite well with this setup. It flies a little smoother, and you will notice it if you put those PIDs into your Babyhawk. Now I'm also using only 2 screws on top. You only need 2. It lightens it up just a little bit. Makes it easier to pull these props on and off. You definitely don't need 4 on top of each prop. It's just not necessary, because a lot of these props only have 2. 4 just makes it more time consuming to put a new prop on. But right now, if you go on Emax's website, it's emaxmodel.com, you can see they're going kind of crazy with the Babyhawk stuff. They have all kinds of different accessories, and I just got a box last week, and look what came in. I have all kinds of different camera towers. New colors are coming out. I've got blue, pink, red. You can also get an extra body on this one. And, you know, some guys are complaining, oh, the body is it's not carbon fiber, it's plastic. Who cares? It's $7.99 to get a new one, so not a big deal. If it's around $6 for a bottom plate and a top plate that snaps on, it's not going to be the end of the world. Everything doesn't have to be carbon, guys. This stuff is actually pretty durable. I did break one of these original frames, but I was also bouncing off boulders out on the cliffs. So this is a pretty durable frame, even though it is plastic. It's pretty well reinforced. I have an extra tower over here. This is sort of a hot pink tower. And they have a bunch of different color doors on the very back for the back of the tower. So you can mix up the colors now. You can also get different frames. So they're going pretty wild with the accessories. You can also get new props. Those are the T2 345 props, and they're multicolored. You also see those on the site. I think they just came out. They came out with 5 sets for $12.99. So pretty competitive price on their props compared to some of the other ones out there that are $3.50 or $4 a pair. So get a Babyhawk. If it's going to be your first one, get one of these, fly it. You will love it. You will absolutely love it. I'm having a ton of fun with mine. I have a backup now because if one of them breaks, I definitely want to have another one to fly. I take this one on all my road trips. Actually, I take all of them on my road trips. But Babyhawk, like I said, it's #1 in my list, mainly because it's probably the most versatile and all-around quad that I've been flying this year as far as brushless micros are concerned. There are some things that I'd like to see. Like I said before, I'd like to see OSD on this. And there's a guy out there that made a video. He shows you how to put OSD on your Babyhawk. If you do a little YouTubing, you'll find that one out there. But fly it with prop guards or fly it without. Either way, I think you're going to love it. So great job, Emax. You guys did a great job on the Babyhawk this year. So big hit. Everyone loves it. But enough talk about this and enough bench talk. Let's go outside and fly each of these, and I'll show you the performance of each one in this top 5 countdown.